Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fabric Tech Talk Fridays. I'm your host, Patrick LeBlanc, and today I have one of my best friends, one of my longtime friends here with me, Shabnam. Shabnam, before we get into all this, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shabnam Watson. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP and longtime user of Microsoft Data. So I'm super happy to be here today with you, Patrick, and at FabCon in Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
Yes.
Yeah.
My
at home,
hometown.
at home for you. All right. So we're going to talk about something that I don't think we pay enough attention to. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Fabric Networking 101. Tell us about it.
Yes, so Fabric has networking settings where you can control what data is coming into the Fabric tenant and what data is leaving your Fabric tenant, both inbound and outbound. So we're going to talk about that.
All right, this is exciting. Let's go.
Yes, so inbound security and outbound security, when you think about them, it's not about which direction the data moves, it's about who makes the connection. So when you talk network security, it's about the connection. When you're making a connection from the outside, like you're using Power BI Desktop or SQL Server Management Studio, you want to connect to Fabric, that's inbound. So the question is, do you let everybody come in from public internet access?
No.
Or do you want to only let people come in from your virtual network?
Let's just open it up to the world.
So that's inbound, and
Yeah.
I'm going to show you the controls that Fabric has.
Okay.
At the tenant and workspace level, what we can do to limit the inbound.
Yep.
And then outbound is about where your data is going. So we're going to assume breach, we're going to have zero trust and say, we have somebody who's going to maybe accidentally ship data out to a storage account that they're not supposed to. And again, outbound is you're inside Fabric with a copy job, copy activity, or a notebook, and you want to connect somewhere else, and you're going to send data out.
Yeah. So
or bring data in.
So if I work for an organization and we want to control which things can connect to Fabric, right? So I just want Power BI and SSMS and Excel to connect to my Fabric items. That would be inbound.
Yes.
And then, so I have all my team working with my data, and I have this notebook and I want to write out, or I have a pipeline, I want to push it to a public blob storage. That is outbound. And we can control all these things, right?
You can control all of that. And you
Yeah.
can control it at the tenant level. So you can say, I want to turn off for inbound. You can control it at tenant level. So you can say, I want to turn off the access to all of my workspaces at once. So when you do that, only people who can get in are the ones who are coming from your virtual network, so from your VPN.
Got it.
Yes. And then, or you can say, okay, I'm going to do it per workspace. I have a workspace with super sensitive data that I'm just going to let it be open to my internal people that are coming from my virtual network, from my jump boxes. And then you have some that's okay to connect from the outside.
And so you can control it holistically or at a very, very granular level.
Yes.
And this is key, I think, for a lot of organizations because they have a mix.
Yes. So initially, you could only lock this down at the tenant level. And then there were a lot of requests to Microsoft that organizations wanted to be able to do it at the fine-grained level.
Yeah.
So here it
Makes
is.
sense. Sure.
Yes. So a common pattern is for securing at the workspace level is that, for example, you put your warehouse in a workspace that's tied down that only your developers can get to from the jump boxes. And then you have another warehouse that has your reports, and that one everybody can get into.
Makes sense.
Although when I say everybody, remember that you always have Microsoft Entra ID
Sure.
to get through.
So in addition to, us controlling what can access inbound and outbound, there's some additional security controls to determine who can access that content.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's multiple layers. There's Entra ID, then you have network security, then you have workspace roles, then you have item level, then you have sub-item level, SQL. You have so many layers.
Yeah.
Yes. So how do you do this? At the workspace level, you create an item called a private link. And think of a private link as a bridge. It's going to connect your workspace to your private IP address in your virtual network. So it's like a bridge. It's got two sides. One side is connected to a workspace. The other side is going to connect to a private endpoint in your virtual network.
Gotcha.
And then once you do this, then you can go and turn off the public access for that workspace.
Got it.
So the steps that you're going to take is you create your private link. If you don't have a virtual machine or a VNet, you create that. Then you create a private endpoint in that VNet. That's the other side of the bridge. And then you make sure you can get in from your virtual machine before you go and turn off public access.
Because if you don't,
you can lock yourself out.
you can lock yourself out.
With the GUI, you can always call a REST API to open it up. But you just before you do this, you make sure you have somebody with higher permissions. And don't do this right before you're going to production.
Sounds like you have a little experience.
Yes. True story. Don't try this 2 weeks before.
Before you go to production.
It wasn't Fabric. It was a different product.
Okay.
But don't play with private endpoints without thinking about it, planning. You have to plan for network settings.
Plan, test.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now.
Enough all the talking. Let's head over to your laptop.
Yes. Let's see if my VM is still up. So this is my virtual machine. And I just want to show you that I can get into a workspace.
Yep.
So it's called the 5th workspace because I've been practicing. So this is the 5th workspace.
I get it.
And this VM is part of my virtual network. Mm-hmm. And the way I get to it is with a service called Bastion. Azure Bastion for one developer is free. If you have a larger team, then you can get a paid service. But that's how I'm connected here. Now, if I go to this tab here, I'm over the public internet right now, connected to it. Okay. Yep. So I can go to the settings here and go to the inbound and toggle this and turn the inbound access off, but I don't want to do that yet. I want to make sure I got the bridge built before I turn this off.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to Azure and I'm going to say, build your own template. And then I have a piece of code here, and so I'm going to put this piece of code here. By the way, this template is on Microsoft Learn. And the way this works is that we are creating a resource in Azure. I am giving it a name. I name them similar to each other so that I can find out what these things are. It's an Azure resource, so the name helps me remember where it's going. Yep. You can call it whatever you want. Then it has my tenant ID and then the workspace ID.
Got it.
And if you don't know where to get the workspace ID, it is the number that shows up after the groups in the link up there. And the Fabric tenant ID comes from the About Fabric section of the portal. Okay, so I'm going to save a template and I'm going to create a resource group. So it takes a second for it to validate the template. Yes, if you do make a mistake, it lets you go back and edit it. You don't have to start from scratch. So this is going to create the private link item in Azure, and it's going to put it in the resource group. So while it's doing that, I'll go and I'll show you another one that I've created from a previous round.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. The private link you create by going through the custom and the custom deployment. The private endpoint you can create from the portal. You don't have to use a script. So you can see these are all the other points that I've created. And when you create a private endpoint, I'll just pick any of the groups. And I won't actually create this, but I just want to show you something. So when you go to the resource type, if you type Fabric, this is for workspace. So this is when you're creating private link for the workspace. If you type Power BI instead, this is the private link for the service.
Got you.
So it has inherited the name.
Yeah. Why change the name?
We love Power BI, right?
We love Power BI.
We love Power BI. So once you do this, then you can pick from the private links that you have. And these private links, they're tied one-to-one to workspaces.
Got you. Okay.
So you pick one of these, and then the next step would be it's going to ask you which virtual network you want to be part of. And then you go ahead and create it. So I'm going to skip this part and show you one that's already been created.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go to the VM first. This one's not locked down yet, and then I can go and lock this down from the inbound.
Okay.
And I do this and apply, and this it locks. But sometimes it will take up to 30 minutes, and the message will tell you it may take up to 30 minutes for this to lock down.
Yep.
And it does sometimes take up to 30 minutes. So whenever you're testing networking inbound or outbound, you're locking it down or opening it up, you have to wait at least 30 minutes to make sure that it actually took. Like, don't celebrate too quickly. So let me show you another one of the workspaces here.
That's already locked down. There we go.
Yes. So this is the message you get from the portal. But if you go to the VM can't get to it.
Because it's part of the private network.
Because the VM is part of your virtual network that has the private IP address, that has the link that can get to the workspace.
Got it.
If you accidentally do this and you don't have your VM yet, or you forgot your password, you don't have access to your Azure admin, what you can do is you can run some PowerShell and you can open it up with PowerShell. Yeah. So you can run, you can call a REST API and you can read the access policy back.
Got it. Yeah.
That's
ready
it.
To go. That's
so
it. Yeah.
that's inbound. And then you can also do it with the IP addresses.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So under the inbound, there is a section that says, so from this point on, you can only connect to this workspace from a private network or from the public IP addresses that are listed here. So then I can go and specify single IP range, a CIDR notation, so over the public, but you're coming through these IP addresses.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool,
it's pretty robust. And
yes.
It's flexible, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So that's inbound.
Yep.
And then outbound is a little bit easier to set up. You don't have to leave Fabric to set up outbound. For outbound, if you're creating outbound protection for notebooks or Spark jobs, you can create managed private endpoints from within the workspace. It takes care of it for you. And then if you're working for example, you're working with the warehouse or the lake house, for those items, you come down here and then you toggle this. And it makes you say, yes, I understand that after this, that you can send data anywhere. So when you set this, by the way, there's no apply button or anything. Once you toggle it, that's it.
It's done.
It's done. Once you say I understand, it's done. At this point, from this workspace, I cannot make a connection anywhere outside and send data out or bring data in.
But I see it allow Git, so I still can sync my repository.
You can,
and set
yes.
everything up with Git, which is important.
You can do
right?
that.
Version control is important.
Yes. So there's still some restrictions on which items can be in the workspace.
Sure.
It doesn't work with everything, and the message it will give you some warnings about what's supported, what's not supported. Mm-hmm. For the items that are supported, you can say, okay, I'm gonna block public outbound access except for these exceptions. So you can say, now I'm going to define these policies where I can decide what data source or data destination I'm going to work with
to allow me to put data out
or bring in.
So
it's remember, networking is all about the connection.
Yes.
So you can make a connection to an ADLS account and bring the data in, or even to a lake house, for example, another Fabric item.
Sure. Yeah.
And then depending on the item that you pick, then there's a granularity. So for the lake house, it's all the lake houses in that workspace. But for some other data types, it can be more fine.
So it's like a specific item.
Yes, it's item specific. So once you set the exceptions, then from that point on, everything's blocked except for the exceptions.
Wow. And that's really easy.
Yes. And then the last thing I just wanted to show you is the workspace identity. So this is not necessarily networking.
Sure.
But the workspace identity creates a managed service principal. You don't have to worry about the key for it, maintaining it, putting in an Azure Key Vault. And then from that point on, you can use this identity to authenticate, let's say, to a storage account.
That's really good.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
makes it so much easier. All right.
Yeah. So these are many controls that we have in Fabric.
Fabric networking 101. This is the first time. This is the first time I've ever done a session on Fabric networking. All right. Thank you so much, Shabnam,
Yeah,
for
thank you
hanging
for
out with
having me.
us. And if you're watching on the web, if you have any questions, comments, you know what to do. Post in the comments below. And as always, from Microsoft, Shabnam, this guy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Friday.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
What a conversation. Everything you've been watching here was captured live at FabCon and SequelCon in Atlanta, from the interviews to the demos to the community insights that make these events so special. If you're into Microsoft Fabric, SQL, and the future of data, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of next, we're taking this show to Barcelona. FabCon and SequelCon Barcelona are happening this September 2026, and it's going to be packed with big announcements, deep technical sessions, and one amazing global data community. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to register and use code FABTV to save 200 euros off your ticket. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you in the next one.